In a eulogy he delivered a week after Israel assassinated his right-hand man, Fuad Shukr, the leader of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, claimed that Israel is no longer the invincible power that beat the greatest Arab armies in past wars. Someone should tell Nasrallah that cowardly hiding in bunkers all day and night has made him blind to the fact that the Israelis have been running circles around Nasrallah's chief sponsor, the Islamic Republic of Iran. Iran continues to say that it is seeking to de-escalate regional tensions, quote, establish stability in the Middle East, and, most absurd of all, that stability in the region, quote, will only come with punishing the aggressor and creating deterrence against the adventurism of the Zionist regime. Those words literally came out of the mouth of Iran's acting foreign minister in the same week that one of his colleagues, Iran's ambassador to Australia, wrote on social media in favor of, quote, wiping out the Zionist plague. Nasrallah, for his part, has declared in the past that it actually suits him that all the Jews are concentrated in one place, because that way it will be much easier to eliminate them. He is in favor of the Nazis' final solution for all the Jews. This destructive ideology is his banner. The Houthis, also sponsored by Iran, proudly carry a flag with the inscription, Death to Israel, in addition to Death to America, and also Curse the Jews. For Hamas, this is the policy declared by many of its leaders. We need to eliminate the Jews and Christians to the last of them. Broadcast repeatedly on its official Al-Aqsa channel. And the head of this coalition, Iran, has incessantly repeated its goal of eliminating the Jewish state since the Iranian Revolution in 1979. It is really politically incorrect to say that these are the new Nazis. But anyone who talks nonstop about the extermination of Jews or the Jewish state is a Nazi. Israelis have no thoughts about or interest in eliminating or wiping out Iran. After all, most Iranians outside of their home country, and there are many, actually support Israel. And most Iranians still in the homeland detest their Islamist regime. One 20-something-year-old Iranian who has lived there his entire life recently told me that he estimates upwards of 90% of Iranians in Iran cannot stand their government. This is one of the key reasons why Israel has been able to play with this Iranian regime like a children's toy. It has many willing and courageous actors within Iran. In recent years, killings, reported suicides, and deaths in mysterious circumstances have put an end to important Iranians, including prominent space scientist Ayub Entazari, who was said to have been poisoned in the circumstances, similar to nuclear scientist Kamran Malapur at the Natanz facility. In 2020, Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, considered the mastermind behind Iran's nuclear program, was killed in an ambush near Tehran. A remote-controlled machine gun, mounted on a vehicle, was apparently used in the attack. Equipped with a camera that utilized artificial intelligence and facial recognition to target Fakhrizadeh, the automatic gun, reportedly controlled by satellite, struck him 13 times from a distance of 150 meters, or 490 feet. The gun was so accurate that not a single bullet struck his wife, who was seated next to him. The murder of Fakhrizadeh was preceded by other officials earlier that same year, attacked within 20 minutes of each other. The first was killed and the second was injured. Those strikes were followed by the assassinations of a senior general in Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and a senior engineer at an Iranian nuclear facility. The list goes on. Tons of secret documents related to the Iranian nuclear program were smuggled out in an intelligence catastrophe that left Tehran with no choice but to claim that the documents were unimportant, as was the breaching of security systems in Iran's top nuclear reactors, including by cyber attacks and setting fires to disrupt operating systems. What's more, the death of now former Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi several weeks ago in a helicopter crash was explained away in fatalistic terms without any official announcement of the final results of the investigation. And last week, Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh was assassinated while sleeping in a Tehran building, in a location believed to be totally beyond the reach of his adversaries, what the Iranian regime considered its safest area. Iran has said that Haniyeh was killed by a missile because admitting to its own people, no less to the world, that the Israelis easily infiltrated one of its Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' most secured compounds and planted bombs there 2 months ago, would further expose the Iranians' weaknesses, failures, and undoings. Here is how Middle Eastern political analyst Salem Al-Ketbi described it, quote, Haniyeh's assassination stands out as the most painful and impactful blow to the Iranian regime, primarily because the operation was carried out with extreme precision, under circumstances that prevented the Iranian regime from dealing with it as usual by simply absorbing the blow, regardless of the victim's importance, as was even the case with someone as significant as the country's president. The attack was humiliating for the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and its claims of cutting-edge technological and security capabilities. There is abundant evidence pointing to the ineffectiveness and breakdown of security protocols within the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Numerous high-ranking officials have been eliminated, both within Iran and abroad, using diverse tactics and strategies. This reveals a critical lack of security awareness, coupled with recurring breaches, betrayals, and violations of existing safety protocols. The absence of any meaningful review of these procedures can be attributed to the pervasive arrogance and overconfidence endemic to the Iranian regime. End quote. Even one of Iran's largest pro-hardline newspapers wrote that, quote, the most important aspect of this incident is how Israel reached Haniyeh with such ease in the heart of Tehran. End quote. While Israel covertly toys with Iran, the Islamic Republic literally tells Israel, via Hungary, that it has decided to attack the Jewish state in response to Haniyeh's assassination within its borders, because nothing says, we don't really want to go to war with Israel, like broadcasting your next moves to your enemy. Experts on Iran recently told a Saudi news channel that they believe Tehran's strategy of unifying different fronts against Israel has failed since October 7th. Iran expert Jabir Rajabi said that Iran has not managed to achieve major goals despite its extreme declarations. Rajabi pointed out that Israel possesses advanced military equipment, including fifth-generation fighter jets and advanced defense systems, which can efficiently address any Iranian threat. While Iran and its allies have formulated military plans in recent years against other, less advanced adversaries, going head-to-head with Israel is a different matter entirely. Rajabi explained that the IDF has extensive experience in various wars. Meanwhile, Iran and its proxies rely on guerrilla warfare and irregular conflicts for their training. The Iranian leadership is also trying to mitigate severe economic issues, and, as such, watched very closely when Israel lit up one of Yemen's Houthis-controlled ports a few weeks ago, in response to a Houthis fatal drone attack in Tel Aviv. It is believed that Israel could destroy at least 30% of Iran's oil fields in short order, while Iran's attempts to target Israeli objectives in third-party countries often fail. The Iranian regime is nothing short of a joke, run by a jihadist cleric and his cronies, while the Persian people, with a rich, elaborate, impressive history and culture, suffer. And the West does nothing about it, especially after Iran directly helped Hamas in engineering the October 7th massacres, destruction, and kidnappings. In the years 2021, 2022, and 2023, European exports to Iran were about 4 billion euros annually, and imports were about 1 billion euros a year. Why? Why is a country with a destructive ideology allowed to export or import a single euro? And worse, these are the countries of the free world that impose restrictions on the supply of weapons to Israel. They find it difficult to understand, either via incompetence or corruption, that is, being paid off by Iran, that they are only spurring the Iranians' axis of evil to increase the war against Israel, the one country in the Middle East and North Africa that truly has the West's best interests at heart. Officials in the United States-led multinational coalition that is reportedly preparing to assist in repelling an expected Iranian attack have preemptively warned Israel not to respond too strongly to such an assault, according to a Tuesday report. Don't push it, the unnamed officials told Jerusalem, according to Israel's Khan public broadcaster. Think carefully before you attack in return. The goal at the end of the day is not to lead to an all-out war. We may recall that Israel did not start the actual war taking place between it and Hamas and Hezbollah, in which the Houthis and militias from Syria and Iraq have also curiously decided to participate. While it is abundantly obvious that all roads lead to Iran, the West has no interest in holding the Iranians accountable for any of this. Israelis are biting their nails, buying water and canned goods, in anticipation for an Iranian strike on Israeli soil. The members of the evil coalition, led by Iran, relish threats of a harsh response, which add to years of declarations of extermination. But the foreign ministers of the G7, the powerful Western countries, issued a conciliatory call last week, quote, to the parties concerned. The word Iran did not even appear once. When the powerful Western countries do not say a word about the threats of the axis of evil, they encourage the axis of evil. Israel does and has not threatened Iran with destruction, but the powerful Western countries are afraid of their own shadow. They are on the fence, and neutrality at this time is an unlimited gift card for Iran's axis of evil. South Africa's chief rabbi, Dr. Warren Goldstein, is no warmonger by any stretch of the imagination. He is one of the Jewish world's most impressive rabbis, not only terrific at his post in South Africa, but an indelible part of the global Jewish tapestry. Reacting to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's speech to U.S. Congress a couple of weeks ago, Goldstein made a YouTube video in which he reminded us, if Israel does not destroy Iran's production of nuclear weapons, no one else will. Goldstein said, quote, history has shown that no other nation will come to our rescue. We learned this from bitter experience when boats of German Jewish refugees were turned back by America and Britain, and when the Allied forces refused to bomb the railroads to Auschwitz. If there's one thing that October 7th has taught us, it's that the implacable hatred of the proponents of violent jihad knows no bounds. For them, no evil is too horrific to perpetrate. October 7th was an inkling of what Iran would do from the moment it possesses nuclear weapons, end quote. And while the prospect of mutually assured destruction acted as a nuclear deterrent during the Cold War, Goldstein believes no such deterrence exists in the case of Iran, saying, quote, as the great political analyst Charles Krauthammer once observed, mutually assured destruction for jihadists who glorify death and martyrdom is an incentive, not a deterrent. Goldstein went on to reference the Torah portion read in synagogues throughout the world on the Shabbat before Netanyahu's congressional address, in which the non-Jewish prophet Bilam describes the Jewish people as a nation that dwells alone. Goldstein asserted, quote, to dwell alone means to do the right thing even if you are alone against a world of opposition. Abraham, our founding father, was the first person to be called a Hebrew, which the sages of the Talmud say has a root meaning of standing alone, and refers to how Abraham stood on one side and the rest of the world stood on the other. Abraham stood alone with his message of faith in one God, with the divine values of compassion and kindness, against a brutal pagan world. According to Goldstein, almost 4,000 years later, Abraham's descendants and spiritual heirs in Israel must do the same thing. Israel must stand alone and do the right thing, said Goldstein. Nuclear weapons in the hands of a violent, oppressive jihadi regime like Iran, the greatest state sponsor of global terrorism, is a danger not only to Israel, but to the freedom and dignity of every decent human being, in Iran itself, the Middle East, and the world. The nation that dwells alone must act now to save itself and the world.